Chapter 2. First Visit to the Wood. The three children had no chance to visit the Enchanted Wood until next week, because they had to help their mother and father all they could. There was the garden to get tidy, clothes and kitchen things to be unpacked and put away, and a great deal of cleaning to be done. Sometimes Joe was free and could have gone by himself. Sometimes the girls were set out for a walk, but Joe was busy, and none of them wanted to go without the others, so they had to wait. And then, at last, their chance came. "You can have lunch outdoors today," said Mother. "You've all worked so well, and you deserve a picnic. I'll cut you some sandwiches, and you can take some nice fresh milk." "We'll go to the woods," whispered Beth to the others, and with excited faces and beating hearts, they helped their mother to pack the picnic into a big basket. They set off. There was a small gate at the bottom of their back garden that led to an overgrown lane. They unlatched the gate and stood in the lane. They could see the trees in the wood and hear them talking their strange tree talk. Wisha, wisha, wisha. "I feel as there's an adventure about," said Joe. "Come on, over the ditch we go and into the Enchanted Wood." One by one, the children jumped over the narrow ditch and stood beneath the trees and peered about. Small freckles of sunshine lay here and there on the ground, but not very many, for the trees were so thick it was dim and green in there, and a small bird nearby sang an odd little song over and over again. "It really is magic," said Franny. "I can feel magic about somewhere, can't you, Beth? Can't you, Joe?" "Yes," said the others, and their eyes shone with excitement. "Come on." They went down a little green path that looked like it had been made for rabbits. It was so small and narrow. "Don't let's go too far," said Joe. "We better wait until we know the paths a bit better before we go deep into the woods. Look about for a place to sit down and have our sandwiches." "I can see some wild strawberries," cried Beth, and she knelt down and pressed back some pretty leaves, showing the others the deep red strawberries below. "Let's pick some and have some with our picnic too," said Franny. So they picked hard, and soon they had enough to make a fine meal. "Let's sit down under that old oak tree over there," said Joe. "It's all soft moss beneath, and it will be like sitting on a green velvet cushion." So they sat down and unpacked their sandwiches. Soon they were munching away happily, listening to the dark leaves overhead saying "wisha, wisha, wisha" all the time. And it was whilst they were in the middle of the picnic that they saw a very peculiar thing. Franny noticed it first. Not far off was a clear piece of soft grass. As Franny noticed, bumps started appearing on it. She stared in surprise. The bumps grew. The earth rose up and broke out into 6 places. "Look," said Franny. "What's happening over there?" All three of them watched in silence and then saw what it was. 6 big toadstools were growing quickly up through the ground, pushing their way through and rising up steadily. "I've never seen that happen before," said Joe. "Shh," said Beth. "Don't make a noise. I can hear footsteps." The others listened. Sure enough, they heard the sound of pattering feet and little high voices. "Let's get behind a bush. Quickly," said Beth. Whoever it is that's coming will be frightened if they see us. There's magic happening here, and we want to see it." They scrambled up and crept quietly behind a thick bush. Taking their basket with them, they hid just in time, for even as Beth settled down and parted the leaves of the bush to peep through, there came a troop of small men with long beards almost reaching the ground. "Elves," whispered Joe. The elves went to the toadstools and sat down on them. They were holding a meeting. One of them had a big bag with him, which he put down behind the toadstool. The children could not hear what was being said, but they heard the sound of the chattering voices and caught 1 or 2 words. Suddenly, Joe nudged Beth and Franny. He had seen something else, and the girls saw it too. An ugly, gnome-like fellow was creeping up silently behind the meeting on the toadstools. None of the elves saw him or heard him. "He's after that bag," whispered Joe, and so he was. He reached out a long arm, his bony finger closed on the bag, and began to draw it back underneath the bush. Joe jumped up. He was not going to watch people being robbed without saying something. He shouted loudly, "Stop, thief, stop! Hey, look, that gnome behind you!" In a fright, the elves all left up. The gnome jumped to his feet and sped off with the bag. The elves stared at him in dismay, not one of them following him. The robber ran toward the children's bush. He didn't know that they were there. As quick as lightning, Joe put his foot out and tripped the running gnome. Down he went, crash! The bag flew from his hand, and Beth picked it up and threw it to the astonished elves who were standing by the toadstools. Joe tried to grab the gnome, but he was up and off like a bird. The children tore after him. In between the trees they went, dodging here and there, and at last they saw the gnome leap up on the low branches of the great tree and pull himself into the leaves. The children sank down at the bottom, out of breath. "We've got him now," said Joe. "He can't get down without being caught." "Here are the elves coming," said Beth, wiping her forehead. The little bearded men ran up and bowed. "You are very good to us," said the biggest one. "Thank you for saving our bag. We have valuable papers in there." "We've got the gnome for you too," said Joe as he pointed up from the tree. "He went up there. If you surround the tree and wait, you'll be able to catch him when he comes down." But the elves would not come too near to the tree. They looked half frightened of it. "He will not come down until he wants to," said the biggest elf. "That is the oldest and most magic tree in the world. It's a faraway tree." "The faraway tree?" Beth said in wonder. "What an odd name. Why do you call it that?" "It's a very strange tree," said another elf. "Its top reaches all the faraway places, and we don't understand. Sometimes its top branches may be in witchland, sometimes in lovely countries, sometimes in peculiar places that no one has ever heard of. We never climb it because we never know what might be on the top." "How very strange," said the children. "The gnome has got into whatever place there is at the top. He may live there for months and months and never come down. It's no good waiting for him, and he's certainly no good it's no good going after him. His name is Creepy, because he's all about creeping about quietly." The children looked up at the broad, leafy boughs of the tree. They felt tremendously excited. The faraway tree in the enchanted wood. Oh, what magic there seemed to be in every name. "If only we could climb up," said Joe longingly. "You must never do that," said all the elves at once. "It's very dangerous. We must go now, but thank you so much for all your help. If you ever want us to help you, just come into the enchanted wood and whistle 7 times under the oak tree, not far from our toadstools." "Thank you," said the children, and stared after the 6 small elves as they ran off between the trees. Joe thought it was time to go home, so they followed the little men down the narrow green path until they came to the part of the wood they knew. They picked up their basket and went home, with all of them thinking the same thought. "We must go up to the faraway tree and see what's on the top."